Well, I'm joined right now by Gleeb, who is not on stage today, but kind of catching up on some of the stuff that's been going on with you, Gleeb. First off, how overall are you?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, I mean, as you said, I'm not playing today, but I just came out because my friends had extra tickets, and I thought it'd be fun to watch the games in person. So,
Has that been the case? Is it cool to be in the audience instead of maybe on the stage?
yeah, it's cool. It's different. It's a lot more relaxed and whatnot, but it's fun. It's also a lot less exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, probably feels a little bit different being on stage and playing the games than sitting in the audience.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit. You were announced recently as a member on Ember. Now, unfortunately, you've been replaced or you've left the team. Can you give me a little bit of the background on sort of how all that stuff went down?
On me joining the team or me being a
Yeah.
sub?
Maybe the full arc.
Yeah, sure. So, sometime in mid-November, Bao, who I'd met briefly a year ago, roughly a year ago when I was with Hai, like hanging out because they're brothers. I met him and talked to him a bit, but we hadn't really stayed in contact much, though we were friends on Facebook. He reached out to me there, asking if I was still interested in the like League of Legends scene. Because at the time, I'm pretty sure I was still enrolled in college studying computer science, and I told him I was. And he said he was putting a team together with Jonathan Pan and was telling me more about it. And it sounded pretty interesting, so I ended up like withdrawing from school, joining it, playing online mostly through all of December, and then moving in around like the beginning of January.
And then you were on the team. What sort of events led to you being? Are you now a sub?
Yeah, I'm a sub right now.
So what led to you ending up on the sub situation of things?
I'd say it was a couple of things. I think the main though things were like other players in the team not respecting like things I would say in terms of communication. Where at the start, I was like designated to be like the like other people would make calls too, but I'd be like the primary shot caller. So it's like if I say something, that's the final say and do it, right? Whether or not you agree or disagree with it. But that ended up not exactly being the case where like if people maybe thought, oh, this isn't the right call, there'd be like hesitation and stuff. And even after going through it in VOD review and like talking with Curry, who's the coach, and being like, yeah, this is the right call, it's kind of, there's an issue where if the players don't trust each other, then it's very hard to like improve communication as a team because the initial trust isn't there. Yeah. And so we switched to having solo shot call, and then I say things maybe went a little better after that. Not like the calls were much better or worse, but we were just like on the same page. And beside that, I think part of it was that the organization wanted the team to be like together a lot, like all the time, kind of. Yeah. Where I like spending time with the team. They're all pretty cool guys. But I also do like to have some time to myself, kind of go see other friends since I'm more from this area than the rest of the teammates. I actually know a lot of people in Santa Monica, Westwood, Los Angeles area. So sometimes after scrims, I would like go get dinner with friends or things like that. And I don't think they were too approving of that.
Sure. So you ended up being put on as the sub. You're no longer a starter. And you are kind of a part of this group of people in North America who pop into a team, pop out, or like emergency sub situation. Golden Glue is a pretty good example of that as well. Why do you think it is that it's hard for you to stay on a team, throughout like a whole split?
I think at first it was just being like really inexperienced and new to like the pro scene. Like for instance, when I joined TSM, I think that was the big thing is that like it was totally new to me. I was like really introverted in high school, not social at all. So it was like totally different experience coming out and like playing on stage in front of lots of people, interacting with fans, like the whole, I guess, lifestyle shift from being a high school student to LCS player. And then beyond that, I don't feel like has happened too much. Whereas with Fusion, I left after they didn't qualify to join Winter Fox. And then I was like with Winter Fox the whole time until they were relegated, at which point I was offered a spot on the Challenger team. But I knew that Dongxin, Johnny, and Eugene were all leaving the team. And I felt like it wouldn't be worthwhile to stay on the team if the three best other players, in my opinion, weren't on the roster anymore. So at that point, I left Winter Fox and kind of went back to school. So I think although I have been on a lot of teams like for under 6 month durations, it hasn't always been necessarily that it's like, oh, your bench kind of thing. It's more like, oh, well, this team's relegated, so it's kind of like breaking up, or like,
Right.
oh, we didn't qualify for the expansion tourney, so some people are going to stay, some people are going to look for new opportunities. Like
Right.
McNeil went back to Korea, for instance.
Yeah. What do you think your future is? What are your goals? Are you still trying to end up in the LCS as a starter, or I mean, what would you really like to accomplish in the next year or so?
Next year or so, well, there's a few different ways it could go, I guess. I still like playing a lot. I've been playing ranked a lot, whether it's like solo queue, duo with AD, or dynamic queue. And I still feel pretty confident in my ability to play. Like, despite things with Ember not working out, I'd say that, and I might be wrong with maybe one or two teams being off, but I think in the scrims we had like above 50% win rate, or like around 50% win rate versus all teams we played, with the exception of Immortals, which we lost every game to. Although understandably so, because they're really good.
Yeah.
But I feel like I can play if given an opportunity. So I'd probably look around and see how that goes. I'm not necessarily like, oh, playing League is the only thing I can do in life. I have to do this. It's the only way, because I also wouldn't really mind going to university and like studying engineering or law. So like if I were trying to play throughout like the spring and summer of this year and it seemed like things weren't panning out, then I guess I would have to like assess the situation, decide, okay, is it worth the try for another year, or should I go to university? Especially because now like more and more like prestigious, I guess you say, universities are starting to like offer law scholarships, where at first I know like it was RMU, I think maybe Maryville, give scholarships to players, but now I've been hearing things about some of the like some schools in maybe California, for instance, doing it. I'm not too sure like all the specifics yet, but if there's like an opportunity to go to a good university on a scholarship and also play on the collegiate team, then that might even be a more appealing option. Even though like the competitive level is a lot lower, you just have to like weigh it against, well, you're also getting an education, and also if you win first place in collegiate, each player gets 30 grand of scholarship money, which is like in some cases more than people in the LCS or in the Challenger Series will even make. So that depends a lot player to player and org to org, but it's like you could be getting that while getting a degree and while also not being totally restricted in terms of like, oh, you have to live in a gaming house and play 16 hours a day. You can like have a social life and kind of like do more things.
It becomes like a part-time job at
Right.
most. Yeah. Very interesting. All right. So you're sort of thinking through all that stuff right now. Has there been a point in time where you're like, oh, this has changed so much for me, or I've gone through all these up and downs, like maybe I should retire?
Not really. I mean, maybe at some times I've had like fleeting thoughts of like, oh, I can't do this. But the more I look at it and like look at things from a level-headed perspective, I feel that like given the right set of like circumstances that I would be able to do well. Yeah. So, and I'm still pretty confident, not like thinking I'm the best or anything, but thinking that, you know, if I like work hard and practice to improve, that I can do it. But also at the same time, it's like, since I have been playing in competitive play, I guess, since like, if you count Challenger Series stuff, then since like summer of season 3, that I've been doing it for a while. I'm not necessarily in the same situation as like aspiring players where it's like, oh, this is my dream, I can't wait for it to happen. That's like already happened for me. So now it would be more like, can I find a team that can actually compete and do well, right? Because when I was switched to sub on TSM, I might be wrong, but I think we were like 2nd or 3rd place in the league and stuff. So I've like been at that point before, and I would want to be able to like play around that and like but do well, you know, in like playoffs or that sort of thing. I don't think that, it depends how much league grows, but I'm not sure if it's worth it to be like an 8th to 10th place LCS player, you know? Yeah. Because at that point, you don't get to play in playoffs. You're constantly fighting for your job twice a year. You have to deal with like the stress of constantly losing to better teams and better players. Yeah. And also at the same time, it can be argued either way, but you wouldn't be developing the same marketable skills you would pursuing a degree in many situations.
Well, it's definitely interesting stuff, Gleeb. Thank you. Is there anything that you would like to say to any of the fans out there for you who are sort of watching you go through all this stuff and wondering what's up?
Well, just thanks for supporting me, I guess. I mean, a lot of people have been like really supportive, so that's really cool. And if I do end up playing, I'll do my best to perform well.
Well, thank you so much for the interview. Good to we had talked a lot about when we were going to be able to finally do this interview. So good to be able to finally catch up with you and see how this is going for you. So thanks so much. And for everyone else, you can check out the rest of our coverage of all things League of Legends at gamespot.com/LOL.